Now today we're going to be talking about the Panasonic GH3 and wondering if it's a camera that you should consider in using in 2023. Okay, let's be real. If you have the budget, the GH3 is not going to be anywhere in your radar. So this is typically if you're looking for something, if you're starting out, or maybe using for something as a second body, so you don't want to spend too much. So in those two scenarios, I think it's a very good option. Let's talk about build quality. So the GH series is a top of the line range and the build quality is superb. It's built like a tank. It's a magnesium alloy body. It has loads of buttons and loads of customizations. So it has, like, for instance, it has specific buttons for white balance, ISO, and exposure compensation. Now, let me show you my EOS R. The EOS R has none of that. So just have that into mind. So in terms of like the body, it's a really good body. It feels great in the hand. The screen is really bright and sharp even by today's standards, and it's actually very usable even in sunlight. So that's a plus. So now let's talk about image quality. So the Panasonic GH3 has a 16 megapixel sensor. It's a micro four thirds mount, so the sensor is a little bit smaller than the usual APS-C and the full frames, but it actually produces decent images. 16 may not seem much, especially in today's world where we have cameras like the R5 is 45 megapixels, the A1 is, I think, 60 megapixels.
You don't know what you're talking about, do you?
It may seem, it may be dwarfed in today's standard, but if you think about it, if your content is going to the web or social media, you're not going to be outputting an image that's larger than 4 megapixels, trust me. So that 16 megapixels isn't such a bad deal if you're thinking about it. And the images are clean, and the JPEGs look pretty decent. The RAW has a decent amount of latitude and dynamic range, given the sensor. So yeah, for stills, pair it with a good lens, and yeah, you're good to go. So let's talk about video, and that's where this camera really shines. So the Panasonic guys really take video seriously, and if you look at the GH series, they always come out with class-leading features in their time, and the GH3 was no different. At the time of its release, it did have class-leading features. So it shoots 1080p right up to 60 frames per second. It has a very decent bitrate. It has an online mode, although for 25 FPS, where it shoots at a bitrate of 72 Mbps. Now that is way higher than anything that was there at the time. And even now, if you look at a camera like the Sony's for Full HD, they shoot in 50 Mbps. And okay, it's actually decent. 50 Mbps is like what it should be your minimum for 1080p. But this actually takes it higher. It does 72 Mbps. So, and the quality is really decent. It's really detailed. As you can see right now, I'm actually filming on it. You have a headphone jack that would allow you to monitor your audio in real time. The preamps are really good. You can see, okay, you can tell now I'm using the Rode Wireless Go, and the mic is it's plugged right into the mic port, and yeah, quality sounds good. Now let's talk about lenses. So there's a staggering amount of lenses in the micro four thirds mount, and you're not going to be lacking of any lens, trust me. The choices are so wide, and actually something else, other than having many choices, they're also very affordable. Now I'm gonna give let me say a disclaimer. The lenses may be affordable, but do they really are they comparable to like the full frame lenses? Straight up, no. But the beauty about the micro four thirds mount is all you need is a speed booster, and you can mount those full frame lenses on the on the mount on the camera, and yeah, you really have access to some of the best lenses that you have, and make your image better. Something which people don't really think about when they get into this, into filmmaking, photography, is sometimes they focus too much on the body and forgetting that really the lens is actually just as important, and in some cases even more important. than the body. So yeah, you get a speed booster, mount a full frame lens, and yeah, you've got an extra light onto your sensor. You're getting much better quality than the typical micro four thirds lenses. Some of them are actually pretty good, but typically, the best lenses, what I've seen in my career, the best lenses, you'll kind of find them in the full frame, in the full frame land. So, get an adapter, get those lenses, and yeah, you're good to go. So last thing to talk about is price. So when the GH3 was released, it cost about $1,300. Now, of course, time has gone, the prices have gone down. So right now you can check it on eBay and find it for about $200 to $300. Now, for that amount of money, that is a lot of camera that you're getting for that amount of money. And if you think about what you can buy as a camera in that kind of budget, $200 to $300, you're not going to find actually much that can match it. I'm going to give an example of something you can get for that price. Maybe the 60D, the Canon 60D. You're looking at the older Canon DSLRs, 60D, 70D, 600D, 80D, no. You're not getting, in fact, even the 70D is going to be way higher. And when it comes to video, the Panasonic is going to mop the floor if you're going to compare it with those Canons. Maybe something else that you maybe can look into in this budget is a Sony a6000. So that also shoots 1080p up 1080 out to 60p, and the bitrate is actually decent at up to 50 Mbps. But as I mentioned earlier, the Panasonic does it at up to 72 Mbps. And truth be told, the Panasonic has much better build quality and ergonomics than the Sony. Talking about price, something which I should mention, if you're buying a camera body, don't spend all your budget on the body. There's so many things. There's the lenses, there's lighting, there's audio. That's if you're doing video. If you're in stills, there's, of course, there's still the lenses, there's flash, there's there's all that. Greetings, citizens of the internet. So this is a Panasonic GH3. We've been talking about it, and this is in let me call it a vlogging environment. So I'm here in this is where I live. You can see how beautiful, life in Africa is. So yeah, this is what it is. So it's a 12mm Olympus to f2. I've topped the lens down pretty much. Like, I think I'm at let me just see, sorry for the shakiness. I'm at f10. So I've done f10 so that I can have, at least have, to at least have the sky, not completely blown out. I'm seeing some places around there where it's kind of blown out, but the sun is setting on this side, so that makes sense. So we can see it's pretty decent. We have some decent dynamic range. We have myself in the frame, a very black man. We have some clouds in the frame, and they're not blown out. So yeah, this is what it is. So of course I've had to balance my exposure a bit. So I've just topped down my lens, and we're gonna have another discussion about video and ND filters, but that's not the situation for you. So yeah, here it is. Yeah, I think it's so if you talk about a vlogging situation, yeah, I think it's good enough. Now, let me try working with it, because I've just mentioned it has stabilization, so maybe I can try to see how it looks. So this is me walking in my area, and yeah, so I know it's a little bit shaky. Maybe we can try web stabilization in post. Yeah, so it's a decent option. So I've been here waxing lyrical about this camera, and of course there's some things that it's not all perfect, and its major weakness is this camera does not perform well in low light. So the cameras I mentioned before, the 60D, the a6000, they're gonna do better in a low light scenario. Now that's a caveat, but if you're shooting outside, there's no problem. If you're shooting in this sort of scenario where where you've lit your scenes, and by the whatever camera you're using, whatever lens you're using, you should light your scenes. That's one of the most important aspects in either photography or filmmaking. How you're gonna control and shape your light. So light your scenes, and get fast lenses, get fast primes, and the low light problem isn't going to be as much of a problem. Okay, so all in all, is it something I can recommend? Yeah, definitely. I definitely recommend it for 2023. You can definitely use it for creating content for clients, for yourself, and making some short movies for short clips for social media. It totally does it, and it'll do you good. And yeah, it's gonna give good quality that's still relevant in 2023.